Hey guys, I am here with Sterling Gates talking
Hey.
about his film, The Posthuman Project. And this is a film I've been following for the longest time because I am a sucker for a good teenage movie and a good teenage superhero film. So I want to ask you, Sterling, how did you get into this project? It seems like a long running project.
Yeah, I've been on it for about 3 years. From 3 years essentially from conception to our VOD release, which was last Friday, May 1st. Um, and it has been a very, very long road. Uh, I got involved. My friend Matt Price, who's the other credited writer producer, was working with a director named Kyle Roberts, and they wanted to do like a Breakfast Club meets X-Men feature film, but they wanted to do it in Oklahoma on a micro budget. And so they wrote a script and they used that script to secure funding, and they brought me in to retool the script because they thought they thought it was going to be a web series for a long time. Like, so they wanted to retool, re-break the story and retool it to be episodic and to be chapter based. And then we shot it. We got funding and then we shot it. And then there were more advantages to presenting it as a feature film than there were to presenting it as a web series. So we sort of reverse engineered it back into a 90-minute feature. Um, but the basic premise, I mean, it's a teen high school superhero story that is mostly about teenagers and then superpowers versus being superpower focused the whole time. And that has, and the pitch of it is, five friends go on this rock climbing trip before graduation, and then superpowers happen, and then chaos kind of ensues out of that.
Yeah, and when I saw the film, that's something I really enjoyed about it was because it was about these teenagers who I think we could all relate to just moving into another chapter of life. Even if you're not a
Right.
teenager, we're all moving into chapters of our lives. And you saw that with these teenagers and how maybe some of them became distant, like Lisa and Denny, and even Denny and his brother, but they all came together because of this one purpose. And you could tell, I'm guessing that they will stay together after graduation, which made me happy as a viewer. I like the characters. It's like, I would like to see them stay together. But
We'll see. I mean, like we've had a lot of talks about doing more stories set in this universe, but that's kind of getting ahead of ourselves. Like we just released Friday, so we're sort of waiting to see how it does and how people if people like it. And when you release work into the world, there's no way to know how people are going to take it or anything. And so right now we're in sort of a holding pattern where we have stories for this universe, but we're waiting to see how this first film goes and see if there is an audience for it, because that's
mhm.
that's the important thing is there an audience for this type of material and this type of story? And if the answer is kind of lukewarm, well, then that'll determine what happens next. We're hopeful that this film finds an audience and an audience finds this film, and that it will allow us to do more stories. I mean, that's always the goal, especially when you do something that is this sort of serialized, superpowered characters. Like, it lends itself to always worrying about the next chapter. And I think audiences are keying into the fact, especially with all the Marvel stuff, like there's always a story to tell to propel these characters forward cinematically. And so we're I mean, who knows? Like I said, if they will they stay together? We'll see. We'll
Never
see.
know. Well, I know this movie is done extremely well in the festival circuit. So can you
Yeah.
explain how that all works? Because it seems like you guys done a lot of festivals. So getting all these awards, what is this all like?
I mean, when you do an indie film like this, like, your best avenue is the festival circuit. And as a result, we premiered at Dead Center Film Festival, which we shot in Oklahoma. We were an all local cast and crew to Oklahoma. And I'm an Okie myself. I'm an Okie transplant to Los Angeles. So it was important that it was a very Oklahoma centric production to all of us. And then it was important to have our premiere be at an Oklahoma film festival. And Dead Center Film Festival is one of the biggest Oklahoma City film festivals. And so we premiered there June of last year. And then when you do the festival circuit, you basically have a year to get into as many festivals as possible and play in as many festivals as possible. And it just became about, pushing it to festivals that we thought would be interested in this type of subject matter and this style of film.
And talking about that, San Diego Comic-Con,
yeah, how weird is that? It was good. It was good. I went down for that. I do a lot of comic book work, and so generally I'm in San Diego to promote comics and to promote whatever project I'm working on then. So it was weird to be down there to promote a film that like wasn't a Hall H like blockbuster film. I was there to promote a film that was screening, 2 doors down at the Marriott as part of San Diego's International Film Festival, which I mean, most people don't even know they have a film festival, but they do, and it's a really cool it's a really cool environment because on top of everyone coming in to celebrate comic characters and comic books, and then like your big blockbusters and Doctor Who and all that stuff, like on top of all that, you've also got a small subsection that's just devoted to showing indie produced genre films. And so it was really cool to sit there and watch all these things that Comic-Con had selected. And then, we were one of the longest features. We were one of the only features to play it. And so like, it was a little weird because like you're asking an audience to step off the show floor to watch a 90-minute film. And so, people were basically kind of coming in and out throughout the 90 minutes. And then people stayed for the Q&A, and the Q&A we had the director is a guy named Kyle Roberts, and then Rhett Terrell and Lindsay Sawyer and Colin Place and Alex Harris. I think that's it. And then me. And then me. And then we did a Q&A, and we gave out prizes for people that came in, and it was cool. It was a really cool environment, and it was really unlike. I mean, that was my 10th San Diego Comic-Con, and it was unlike any other Comic-Con I'd ever done, because I've done San Diego as a fan, and I've done it as a retailer, and I've done it as a comic creator, and now I've done it as a filmmaker, which is really bizarre to think about, like all the different ways Comic-Con has pulled me down to San Diego.
And I think that's the cool thing about Comic-Con in general is that it does. I mean, a lot of people complain, it's like, oh, it should always be about comics, but I think comics are now going in so many different mediums that it's like it's cool to see all these different mediums: film, sure. Television, comic books, and then again the indie circuit. I think that's the coolest thing about Comic-Con because you can really choose and pick what you like. And again, everything's connected. They're all very visual mediums, and that's why I love film, I love television, and especially love comics. So talking about as a comic writer, what was it like to transition into a filmmaker, and how has your work helped you in making this, writing this superhero film?
Well, that's a big question. It's weird. It's funny. I was trying to explain to someone the other day, like when you write a comic book, there is no budget, and you can do anything as long as someone can draw it, right? So when you write a comic, you do these big moments, and you have the Hulk smashing through a building or whatever, and it's, Avengers, which is a $250 million film, can do a scene where the Hulk smashes through a building, but like something on our scale, on our budget, which is a micro budget shot in Oklahoma, like I had to be very aware of what that meant budgetarily, and sort of scale back and choose moments that we could portray easily, but still not lose impact, like Archie catching the bullet, spoiler alert, like Archie catching the bullet was such an easy thing to write on the page, and I was unsure how they were going to pull it off. And it's one of my favorite like effects in the film. It's such a simple effect to do, but it really turned out. It's really cool. I think it's a really cool moment in the film because you get this nice moment where Colin Place plays it like I just caught a bullet, like holy crap. And I think that has a lot more effect per se than like, watching the Avengers 2 is just like, holy crap, they're throwing so much stuff at you that after a while you start to become numb to those moments. Yep. And like the Hulkbuster sequence is awesome, but like there's only so many times Iron Man can blast something before you're like, okay, I've seen Iron Man blast a thing, like because now I'm kind of numb to it. And so we try to design moments that could feel big and feel really cool to these teenage kids, and at the same time an audience feels like, holy smokes, like that just happened and it's a big moment and we're emotionally engaged. which is a really long-winded answer of it's a totally different way to write, and you have to also think about like, my background, my college degree is art based. I have a degree, a BFA in art, specifically film and television production from the University of Oklahoma. And so I always wanted to be involved in live action, live productions. And then I got further into comics, and my senior thesis ended up being a comic book. And I had to explain to my film advisor and my film professors why it's a valid storytelling medium that you can hold up next to film, because it's conceptually the same idea, right?
Yes,
like
yeah.
Composition plus juxtaposition equals story, right? So you're doing the same thing when you choose moments in a comic to portray as a static image, and then the next moment put next to that to make a story. It's the same idea as in film, only there's motion in film. And so I can write a panel where Superman punches a robot, and I know someone can draw that, and I know the static image, where his fist is going to be, and I kind of know what that's going to look like. But then I say Superman punches a robot in a script, and it's really easy to type, but then suddenly I have to worry about the budget, what the robot looks like, what the Superman looks like. I mean, like it just opens up so many more questions. So you're constantly trying to figure out, well, can we afford to shoot this, and what's it going to look like when it happens on screen, versus I know exactly what it's going to look like on a comic book. Like I know, like I'm picking static images versus trying to dictate how someone moves through a scene versus moves through a panel. If that tracks.
That makes total sense. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this film is that it was indie, and that the effects were beautiful. I thought the whole film was very beautiful. And again, like you were saying, it's not like Avengers 2 where it's like, oh, here's all the action. It felt grounded. And I think that's what made the characters feel grounded too. And I just love the effects of it and the way you did the film. I thought it was something very different, and that's again that really made me gravitate to the film when I first saw the trailer. So I know the film.
Can I pause for one second? Like, we had 3 effects guys on this film, and one was director Kyle Roberts, who did a huge lion's share of the special effects. But then a guy named Andy Seyfried did all the fire effects, all of Gwen's fire effects, and then another guy named Brooks McGinnis did a lot of visual effects that are kind of invisible that you don't realize are visual effects. Like day for night shots and fixing logos and all that stuff. But between the 3 of them, they did 540 effect shots for our 90-minute indie film, which is a higher number of effect shots than the first Matrix movie or the first Star Wars movie. And we did it on like no money, like guys that volunteered and cut their own rates to do things for us. And I'm very thankful. I'm glad you like the effects. Like, I think the effects are really rad for our budget, but it was about trying to find moments that we could pull off with the money that we had. And then guys just digging in and really like working weekdays, weeknights and weekends when they're not at their day jobs, because all those guys had day jobs, trying to make this film happen. So part of the reason it's been a 3-year journey is our post-production time was a full year, because we only had 3 people doing special effects. And again, 500 plus shots. I mean, that's going to take a long time. And so I'm very thankful to hear you say you like the effect work, because it was really like, that was one of the biggest hurdles, especially when you tell people, like, again, we shot in Oklahoma, and you tell people like, yeah, we're doing a superhero thing. And they're like, well, how are you going to pull that off? And like, people would read the script and be like, well, this is like a $3 million film. And we're like, well, we don't have that kind of money, but we're going to try to make it. And we're going to cut corners when and how we can and do our best. And it really is a testament to the work Kyle did, as a director and producer and VFX supervisor. I mean, he did so much work on this film. And it shows, and I think it is a very nice looking film, especially with some of those effects.
And it's just, again, you could tell it's a passion project. You could tell heart and soul was put into the film, and those are the type of films I really like seeing. Of course, I like seeing the blockbuster films too.
Sure,
it's
totally.
Cool to see the indie films, and I feel like we need to see more superhero films like this, and hopefully in the future we will. After this movie does very well. So I know you put the film in theaters in Oklahoma, right? Was it?
Yeah. We were in theaters in Oklahoma, Texas, and we did some screenings in Missouri, I think.
So how did that process happen? Also, how did the process of going on demand, how did that all come about?
Again, like I can't really, like Kyle Roberts worked really hard in a lot of different ways. You talk about passion projects, like this was his passion project, and so every time I turned around, he had a new idea for a new venue. And distribution is always the toughest thing with indie films. I mean, like I was telling someone last night, I have a friend that made a found footage ghost film that's awesome, and she made it in 2009, and she still can't find distribution for it, which is heartbreaking in a way, because they worked really hard to make this really cool thing, and now I think it's just sitting on a shelf. So distribution was always going to be a challenge. AMC Theaters has what's called AMC Independent, and they vet your project, and if they think it's of a certain quality and can sell some tickets, they will place it in theaters as part of AMC Independent. And they don't really do promotion for it. They'll put it in theaters, and then it's up to you guys to figure it out. And so we were very thankful they put us in one of the largest AMCs in Oklahoma City. And again, that's sort of our home deal. And so we sold out a lot of shows opening weekend, and they give you a week, like you're in theaters a week. And so we sold out so many shows opening weekend, they expanded it to 2 weeks, and we did well enough that second weekend. They said, okay, well, let's push you down to Dallas and see what happens in Dallas, Texas. And we did okay in Dallas, Texas. Nowhere near. I mean, obviously, a hometown show is a much easier sell than a major metropolitan city like Dallas. And we didn't really have the marketing budget to push it super hard in Dallas. So it did well enough. And then it bounced to other theaters in Missouri, and I think we might have done some in Arkansas. I'd have to actually check the papers. But it sort of bounced around and did well for us. Primarily, what I was really happy with was just that it happened theatrically, and we didn't have to use a large distributor to get us into theaters. AMC was very gracious, granting us that run. And then we worked out a deal, I want to say in October, with a company called Gravitas to be our online distributors. And we had a sales agent for that. I mean, part of it is getting a sales agent that can put you in front of the right people to find venues for distribution. We worked with a really good sales agent to get us to Gravitas, who I think we signed a deal for them right around Christmas. It was like October to Christmas, and then we did the theatrical, and then we hit VOD Friday, and we're still populating out. Like we were on iTunes Friday, and I know we hit PlayStation Network this morning. We hit Xbox Live on Friday. I mean, it trickles down, but iTunes is the place you can find us easily. And then other venues will slowly, like I know Amazon will open up in a couple days, streaming through Amazon. So they've been really great about putting us on different platforms where they think we'll do well. Again, having Avengers 2, the biggest thing ever, come out the same weekend is great for us, because it allows us to say, well, now that you've seen the most crazy superhero thing possible, this is what we did on a super limited budget in Oklahoma, literally in our backyards in a couple cases. See what you think, and hopefully both stories will appeal to fans of the genre, because that's obviously I really care a lot about superhero stuff and superhero stories. It's been my life for most of my life, and I'm hopeful that people find this story and check it out.
Yeah, and I think what's really good about, opening weekend Avengers, having this film come out, is that at least as a reviewer, I know so many people come up to me and say, oh, well, what comic should I read? What movie should I watch? And it's like everyone wants to get more into superheroes after these films,
Right.
casual viewer. So you could say, hey, there's this indie project going on. That's a really awesome film, so go check it out. It's great to see superheroes becoming more popular. So, let's talk more about the writing portion of this, of course.
Sure.
I want to talk about the characters in general. I want to kind of go through the core characters and ask you what you love about all the characters. So if you want to go down the line and just talk about, like, what makes these characters tick. like starting us with Denny because he's the main character.
Denny Burke is our main character. He's a high school senior. He's played by a guy named Kyle Whalen. Denny has had a really hard year. He was in a rock climbing accident. He's a award-winning rock climbing teenager, and the summer before his senior year, he had a very terrible accident with his dad while rock climbing, and it really messed his body up. And his dad kind of, and you discover this throughout the film, like his dad blames himself for the accident for various reasons that I won't spoil, and so his dad splits for reasons unknown to Denny. And so Denny not only physically is hurt, like emotionally, he's trying to cope with that. And that's where we pick up. That's where we pick up with him. What I like most about Denny is he's very cool-headed, and he's very measured in his responses because he's trying really hard to hold the family together in light of his dad leaving. And my father passed away when I was a teenager, and that was essentially the role my older brother had to take, was trying to keep the family from cracking. His younger brother, Archie Burke, who's played by Colin Place, is a high school freshman, and he's a really, really book smart kid, but he's really impulsive, and he's kind of reckless as a result of their dad leaving. It takes a huge emotional toll on him. So he's very angry, and he tends to be reckless. As a result, he's attracted the attention of a lot of this school bullies, and they're really coming down on him pretty hard when we pick up the film. And all he wants to be is stronger, but he feels like he can't because he's just not physically capable of doing that. Who's next? Lisa Thompson's played by Alex Harris. Lisa is a very smart, very compassionate teenager. She's also a high school senior. She wants to be a doctor, so she knows a lot about medical stuff. And she's sort of dealing with the fact that she and Denny have split, and she feels like she was treated unfairly and wants to know why. And so she's really she's pursuing that. And then she gets sort of wrapped up in this adventure. Adam Hall is played by Josh Bonzi. He is athletic, and he's sort of your stereotypical jock that's trying to deal with the fact that his whole world's about to change. And when you hit that crossroad at the end of high school, like you're not really sure where you're going to go, and you're really worried about losing touch with those friends. And that's like, he has the light bulb moment essentially, and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to lose all of this soon. I don't know what to think about it. And I'm going to be thousands of miles away from the people that I care about. And he's coming to grips with that when we pick up in the film. And then finally, you've got Gwen Black, who's played by Lindsay Sawyer. And Gwen is sort of the girl from the wrong side of the tracks, I guess. And she comes from a poor family, but she and Denny have been friends for a long time. And so Denny really goes out of his way to reach out to her and make sure she's okay. She comes from an abusive home, which is sort of the flip side of what Denny's dealing with. And that, coming out of that, like, she tends to hide her pain with wit and with this really kind of funny grace that other characters don't really have. All of these characters sort of play towards the Breakfast Club Hughesian tropes. Like, that was always the goal, was to make something that was, what if Breakfast Club had superpowers? And so you've got the jock, the weirdo. I mean, like, it's very the princess. It's a very conscious effort on our parts. Like someone was talking about the other day to me, like, well, it feels like I've seen these characters before, and it's like, absolutely you have. Like, that was the whole goal, was, can we create familiar situations and then twist them on their head with the introduction of these superpowered abilities? Because I want to see what different thing you can say when you have characters that people have already identified with and know and love, but suddenly, one can shoot fire from their hands and one can teleport around and one's telekinetic. And I mean, it opens up different doors and allows us to tell sort of an interesting twist on, again, this sort of very Hughesian story type.
Yeah, definitely. I think it shows the strength of a character, because that's what I love about superhero comics, is that once you get the powers, what do you do with it? Do you struggle? What struggles do you go through? And you see these characters go through struggles, but at the same time, it's what creates that bond. And it's, like you said, it's very, it has tropes to it, but I think you twist it enough that they are unique characters, and that's what I liked a lot about the film.
Cool.
So
Thanks.
yeah, I really enjoyed the characters a lot, and that's obviously what's very important about films like this. So who was your favorite character to write? I know it's impossible to say who's your favorite character, especially as a writer, but like which one did you like writing the most? Maybe I know all of them have their different qualities.
I mean, I think Gwen, just because she acts as lone voice of reason a couple different times throughout, and I really like things get so insane and she's the one who's like, who the hell is this guy and why are we dealing with him? And like her voice is very much my voice in situations. And I really like, I mean, every character is different. Like I identify a lot with Archie just as someone who grew up in a very hostile school environment, and dealing with school bullying. I mean, I identify with that quite a bit. And I identify with Denny, who's struggling with the loss of a parent and struggling with physical problems he's trying to overcome. And I really like, Adam's humor. I mean, Adam and Gwen are probably my two favorite to write, just because both of them kind of have my voice in those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa, I think Lisa gets the best lines.
She does. That one in the trailer about cross my heart, hope to fly. I love that. That's such a great quote. I hope more people quote it, because I love that line. Actually,
I wanted them to put it on a poster. Like I wanted them. I really thought that should be our tagline: is cross your heart and hope to fly. But whatever reason, no one went with me on that. So
because that's awesome. Because like Denny makes such a, he's like, oh, hope to die. It's like, who hopes for that? And it's like, yeah, who does hope for that? I think that's such a great line. And that's, again, when I watch the trailer, that's like something I will definitely say, I know that line. Because it's just so perfect. But yeah, talking about Lisa, I do want to talk about her character without spoiling too much. I want to dance around it. But we don't figure out a lot about Lisa's powers until the end. Now, did you want to explore that more in the next stuff you do, or was it conscious that you wanted to keep this hidden? What was this all about as we dance around spoilers?
I mean, her powers were a late. I tell people, like, look, there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this project, and there are things that were decided that I didn't even know about till I saw it. And that ending, like, I don't want to spoil this, but like, there's a beat towards the very end where Lisa does something, and I didn't know they were going to do that. So like my first experience with her doing that was watching the first cut. And I turned to, the group, and I was like, hey, where did that come from? Because that is so not what I thought we'd planned for this character. And they said, well, we really thought like introducing a new power in a cool way at the last minute would be a cool ending button, and B, a nice platform to jump off on future stuff.
I think I agree with that, though. I thought it was a very good cliffhanger to it's like, whoa, where did that come from? I want more.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, not to spoil this, but like Lisa is central to the plans of future Posthuman stories. Like, and if Alex Harris is listening, she just got a surprise, because I don't think she knows that. But Lisa is very central to the future, just because I like that character, and I really want to explore her more in a lot of different ways. And just because of the nature of the story, she's sort of taken out of the story for a chunk of it. And there are scenes that unfortunately got cut where she did a couple other things. And I would like to dig deeper in with that character and do a lot more things with her. And Alex is such a great actress, and I think she brings a really cool air into that role. And I think future stories, I think we should definitely, and we're talking about it obviously, but like designing future stories that help build that character up and build her out and make her super important to the Posthuman universe. I mean, it's tough because, there's a great Wes Craven quote where he talks about, like, you make a movie 4 times, and the first time is when you think of it in the shower, the second time is when you write the script, the third time is on set when you're shooting, and the fourth time is in the editing bay when you're cutting it together. So you've done 4 different versions of a story before anyone ever sees it, before the public ever sees it. And so there were so many different versions with very different things with Lisa before we came to where she is now in the film. And I think there is a great future for that character, and I really want to continue to explore that character, if only because I like her role in this first one, but I think she deserves a bigger and different role in future stories. And that came out of a lot of decisions. Like, her role in this film came out of a lot of decisions that in hindsight, it's like, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should have done this. In the future, I mean, all we can, as with all stories, like I've been on a bunch of different monthly comics, and like all you can do is, well, next time we'll try to do a better version, and we'll try to keep building. And when you do serialized stories like this, like that's the hope, is that we have the ability to keep pushing these characters. And Lisa is number one with a bullet, my character, like my choice to continue to really explore, because I don't know that, because I feel like because of a lot of decisions, there's not enough of her in this version of the film. Which is unfortunate, because Alex,
character, I feel. But saying that, I think she has a great character.
Yeah, and Alex is such a talented actress. Like, I think she can do a lot of different things, and I want to see. And again, this is all who knows. Like, Posthuman 2 is who knows. But she's such a great actress, and she's so strong, and she's such and like, talking to her in real life, she's such an interesting person, and she's so willing to collaborate and do anything. Like, I really want to, and there are scenes that were in the script and not shot, or scenes that got shot and then got cut. Like, there's just different stuff with her that sort of changes what I wanted to do with that character. But as a result, it gives me a great platform to springboard off for future stories. Yeah. Making her telekinetic is a spoiler alert, I guess. But making her, it's on the poster, so you can't really be too spoiled. But like, making her telekinetic opens up a lot more doors than not doing that. So we'll see. I mean, it all depends on the future, and I don't really know what the future holds.
Yeah.
But no, I think she's a really interesting character, and we'll see what happens next. We'll see what happens next.
Yeah, this is rolling off 2 questions for me. I wanna go back to the female superhero, because I think that's very important in a discussion people are having a lot today. But I do want to talk about, would you want to make this an indie comic book? Convert this into, I know you did have a comic book for, I think, like the Kickstarter Indigo stuff you had.
We did, yeah. We did like a prologue comic book. That's the story of Denny's accident.
So would you want to convert this movie into a comic to, maybe have a better, I don't want to say better chance of making a sequel. I don't want to say even easier chance of making a sequel, but maybe a different chance to make a sequel. Would you guys go that route?
Well, we've talked about trying to expand what media we do Posthuman stories in, and we've talked about doing a sequel comic that essentially starts the next day, and rolling that for as however long it takes to get Posthuman 2 going. It would essentially fill in the gap between projects. Mm-hmm. We've talked a lot about that. I know Matt Price is really interested in it. I'm not sure I have time, honestly, to do it. But never say never, I guess. I mean, again, it sort of all comes down to, is there an audience for these characters? And I can only hope that it finds an audience, and that there's a demand for more stories. And like when that becomes the case, we've got a lot of plans in place, but until that happens, like it's sort of a big question mark.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here. I'm definitely gonna promote the hell out of this one because
I know, and you're making comic books, so
that too. So that's also a cool thing.
Where's issue 2? Where's my issue 2?
I hope soon. That's the thing. Now I understand the indie perspective because where is issue 2? Issue 1 has to go to comic book stores. It's very
right.
But yeah, that's why I always love supporting indie projects because.
By the way, congratulations on getting a comic done and B, getting it out. Like that is a monumental accomplishment just by itself. And like when your Kickstarter hit and it did well, I was so happy for you because that is not an easy thing to do just cold. So where's my issue 2? That's the question. Where's issue 2?
I hope Short Fuse Media is listening to this because I want issue 2 to come out so soon. It's really funny because my book is actually created to be a movie first, so now I'm turning it into a comic book. Yeah, so I have pretty much 10 issues plotted. I have the whole kind of movie plotted, and then turning it into a comic. So it's kind of an interesting reverse there. But yeah, I'm glad you supported it. I was very happy because I love your writing, so it was very cool. And hope you enjoyed issue 1.
I did. I don't know, maybe I didn't email you. Like I thought it was really strong. Like I thought you guys did a really nice job, and it's again, I'm waiting for issue 2, so that's a good sign. So
well, I will definitely email you because I would love to hear your notes on it too, because I would love to hear in depth.
Okay.
It's very cool. But yeah, so we did talk about the comic medium. I want to go back to the female.
Oh wait, sorry. Hold on. Time out. You should say the name of your comic for listeners in case they don't know it.
I should. That is smart.
We've been talking about it for like 5 minutes and like mention the website and like you should pitch your comic while we're on this thing.
I should. Thank you. Well, my comic is Like Father, Like Daughter. I'll give you a little thing on it if you guys want to hear. It is about this teenage girl. Oh my God. So teenagers kind of, very similar here. We got a teenage girl who, she's in high school. She's a popular girl, but her father left her at a young age to become a full-time superhero. So there's a lot of antics that happen in between. And we get to see this relationship develop. So I'm not going to spoil more than that, but go check out my Facebook for Like Father, Like Daughter, my Twitter, Comic Uno, and you'll learn more about that. And my YouTube channel, being /Comic Uno.
See, you're way better at pitching than I am. Like, I didn't mention our Twitter feed. I didn't mention our website.
Well, in the end, I'm going to obviously let you plug in everything. I'll remind you, Twitter.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But, yeah, thank you for letting me pitch that. That was awesome.
No, you should. And again, I'm always happy to support cool projects, and I think it's a really cool project. And I'm, like I said, I'm waiting for issue 2, so hurry the heck up.
I will. So guys, buy issue 1, that way issue 2 could come on stands. It's already written. But thank you. But yeah, going back to the female perspective of this movie. A lot of superhero films complain, even for Marvel, they're starting to do this a little bit better, but there's not enough female empowerment in superhero films. Even though in comics, I feel like there's definitely more now than there ever was. And I know people complain, but I believe there is. I think there's a lot of female empowerment. So you have Gwen, you have Lisa here, and I feel like they are strong written characters. And even though Lisa, she did have a relationship with Denny, it's not relied on that. I think she has such a unique character, and I think with other like superhero films, it's always relied on the relationship with the superhero. But Lisa is just her whole totally different character, and I think that's why I gravitate towards her the most. But also Gwen, I think she has such a unique perspective. And so I want to ask you, what was it like writing these female characters, and were you thinking about, hey, superhero films don't have enough females like this?
Was I thinking about that? I don't know that I was thinking about that at the time. Like it wasn't conscious.
That's good though. That's good. It wasn't conscious, and that means it was natural.
No, I mean, if you're familiar at all with my comics writing, like I really like writing female characters, and I believe I try to write all kinds of different female characters, and like, I wrote Supergirl for about 3 years, and the main cast of that book, all of them, it was populated almost completely by women, because I like writing women, and I like writing women with different types of voices and telling different types of story. And I've always gravitated towards, female narratives. I think they're really interesting, and it's such a different thinking process than my normal thinking process. So it allows me to really like step outside my own comfort zone and really try to examine issues from different perspectives. That said, like Supergirl, Supergirl was written, that character and those internal monologues, like those are very much my voice. And Gwen is sort of the same way. Like her reactions are kind of my reactions towards various things. Like you put yourself in every character you write, and Supergirl is probably the purest version of like my normal set of thoughts in any given situation. There's no good way to explain this. Like, it was important to me to make sure that everyone had big, nice hero moments, and I really, again, since I gravitate towards writing female characters naturally, because I find women far more interesting than men. Gwen takes out. I can't spoil that, but like Gwen does a lot of really cool stuff, and Gwen's arc is really interesting to me, and it's probably the most interesting. Maybe in hindsight, like it's probably the most interesting arc in the whole picture, just because there are a lot of ins and outs and a lot of interesting things that I gravitate towards. And that's me bleeding through Matt's story. Matt created Denny's story whole cloth, and then like Gwen's story was a part of it, but I pushed really hard to boost Gwen's story overall. And I feel like I can't speak about this without spoiling plot points, so I'm trying to find ways to go around it.
I understand the whole dance, but you're doing well.
So I gave her a lot of big moments because I really liked I like Lindsay as an actress, and I think she's a really strong actress as that character, and I really like Gwen as a character because again, it's just like she has had a really hard life, and she masks her pain with humor, and I think a lot of us can really identify with that, because I tend to do it naturally too. Plus she shoots fire from her hands, and that's the coolest power. Oh god, I mean but no, it wasn't a conscious decision to like we need more lady superheroes in film, because again we're such a small blip on the superhero map. I mean, you can't compete with Avengers 2. You just can't.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to make sure Gwen was a really interesting character going through a lot of really hard stuff emotionally, and then physically these powers kind of come into play, which heighten all the emotional stuff, but also create a new physical obstacle for her to try to deal with and overcome. And then she makes a lot of very rash decisions, and that creates new emotional obstacles because of physical reasoning. I mean, I like Gwen a lot, and I don't know. I like writing female characters. I just think they're so interesting, and yes, we definitely need more of them. And I do my best to try to tell interesting stories about women, whether it's in comics or in film or short film or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to say here. It's just what I do. Like I naturally gravitate towards that.
That's a great thing. I don't think it should be a writer saying, well, we need more females. Oh God, we need more females. What do we do here? But you did it so naturally. It's like you can't even answer that, because it's like, oh, how do you not write strong female characters and also strong male characters? Because it's not like the males are wimpy here. I think everyone's just very equal here, and that's what the movie should be about.
I mean, and we try. It's hard when you have 5 leads. I mean, we had 5 protagonists. I mean, Denny's the main protagonist, but like the other 4 are such huge parts of it. Like everyone needs to be as strong as possible in any given draft of the script or shooting or whatever. And so it's hard because you want to give everyone big moments and make sure everyone's characters get served, as well as make sure the actors have great roles they can bite into. Because if you don't, like, if you're an actor and you don't have, if there's not a lot there for a character, like I feel like you're probably not going to come to the project in the same way as if you have a lot of nice emotional beats and a lot of physical stuff to overcome. So I tried really hard to make sure everyone got like really cool stuff. And there's a moment towards the end where Adam, who is our physically strongest guy, sort of gets laid low, and Gwen does a really cool thing to save him, and I thought it was a nice reversal of your typical superhero-y story. And I wanted to be sure that was in there because I thought it was a really necessary, cool, great hero moment, and it kind of turns that trope on its head.
Yeah, I know. If you want tropes turned on its head, watch this film because that's what it does here. So as we start getting towards the end of this interview, I want to ask: is there anything about Posthuman Project you want to talk about? I do want to mention the song though that just was released. One of my favorite scenes of this movie is the car ride when they're just singing along. So was that like in your script saying, oh, like random song here, or was it like, oh, we found these Oklahoma singers, let's put this random song, or great song, check out the music video if you haven't, because I've listened to it so many times already because I think it's so catchy. But yeah, so did you write that in, or is like how did that song come about?
I can hold on. I can actually the exact line that it says. Hold on. It came out of a conversation with Kyle Roberts, who is very he's a music video director, so he's very in tune with the music scene in Oklahoma. Like he does so many music videos for bands in Oklahoma, and O Fidelis is a great sort of folk rock band duo, husband and wife team in Oklahoma. And so he asked me as I was doing the script, and I'm gonna find the exact line here. He asked me as I was doing the script, like, I need a moment where all the kids are in sync in the car and they're singing. And so scene 47 is interior Denny's SUV, pop music plays on the radio, a new song starts up, Gwen sings along to it as she looks out the window, Denny joins in, as the music crescendos, Archie and Adam add their voices to the chorus. Finally, Lisa adds a harmony, a quick moment with all the teens in sync, dissolve to another highway traveling, yada, yada, yada. So it's just like, it's like 3 lines. You can't see, I just, it's like, I know. It's like 3 lines of description, and it turned into this 3-minute sequence where that song starts up, and almost all of those actors are singers. Lindsay's a classically trained singer, and it was a moment I never would have written into anything. And Kyle asked me, hey, I want a moment where they're in the car and they all sing a song. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm going to do this thing, and I've got a great song for it that O Fidelis has written for us specifically. So make that work. And so it became that 3-line description. And it's sort of the last time they're all working together towards anything until they all sort of split apart for, 70 pages, and then they come back together by the end.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful scene, I think. And again,
it's a beautiful
I saw the film. I was like, what is this song? I need to know. And then when the music video came out, just listened to it a lot.
It's a beautiful song, and that music video was so tough to produce because Kyle sent that camera into space with a weather balloon. So all that footage of the little TV, like floating through the sky, like all of that is a weather balloon. That's real space. Like it's a GoPro on attached to a weather balloon he sent up. And we had to do it twice because the first time it came down on a military base in Oklahoma. And so, which is really, really illegal. And so Kyle had to petition the military base, hey, can we get this camera back? And they're like, sure, are you a spy? And so we went through this whole round of trying to get the footage back, and eventually the military, rightfully so, said, no, we'll delete the footage, but we'll give you back the weather balloon rig. And then we had to do it again and send it up again to try to make it work.
But no, not go to a military base again.
Well, and then that time it nearly landed in a lake. And so, like, if you watch the footage, it's heading towards water as it descends, as it parachutes down, and then it missed the lake by like 7 feet or something.
Well, that is
Um,
very good. Love
yeah.
there.
But no, I thought that video, I love that song. I had no idea. Again, you write 3 lines, and I didn't know what song he was going to use. I didn't know what he was thinking. And it's so unlike anything I would have written to put into something like this. But he really thought that would be a great moment. And then the first time I saw it, like Lindsay starts up singing, and I'm like, holy smokes! Like she has a really great voice, and this song is really good. Um, and then like we just kept building up that scene, both audio and visual, like, and it turned into one of my favorite sequences in the film, which I never would have expected.
Yeah.
Um,
Very cool scene. So
but I'm
guys,
glad you like it.
you
Yeah,
see it.
it's O Fidelis. It's a song called Up and Away, and the music video's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on my favorites. I listen to it almost every day because
That's awesome.
yeah, I love that song. Because again, like when I first saw it, I need to find this song. What is this? And then
That's
kind of
awesome.
indie band. It's like it's so cool. So I really enjoyed that.
I mean,
So,
they're a great band. O Fidelis, like you should look up the rest of their stuff. Like they're really cool. They're a really cool band. So definitely,
will.
but they're a local band. I mean, we have like 20 licensed music tracks through the whole film, and almost all of them are local acts that Kyle knew through whatever reason, or that he found them online. And then the final song in the thing is Thrilla in Manila, which is a song by a kid named Grayson Chance.
I seen him on Ellen.
Right. He famously played Lady Gaga's paparazzi at his high school talent show, and Ellen found the footage and basically like helped launch his career, and he's had a great career since then. But his new album is coming out, and Thrilla in Manila is the first single, and he is friends with one of our actors. He's friends with Colin Place because they grew up together and they went to school together or played soccer together or something. And so we were able to secure that song. So like the music list, the track list is just crazy because like JD McPherson is another song we have, and he's a big alt country guy out of Tulsa. And then Grayson Chance is this pop piano playing kid, and then O Fidelis is this folk band. Who else is on there? I mean, it's a huge list of cool local acts, and that's, that helped inform, I think, a lot of the tone that Kyle was really wanting to do, keeping it like cool rock band cool was sort of what he was aiming for.
You definitely get the feel of that. I mean, again, the tone of this film, the look of this film, it's beautiful, especially with not just especially with the budget you got, just as any film, I think it's beautiful. And if you guys haven't seen it, like, you go buy this film. I'm usually not a person that'll go buy films on video on demand. I will buy this because I love it. It's just a really great film. Is there anything else you want to talk about with Posthuman Project in general?
I mean, the cool thing about Posthuman is we cast and crewed locally, and we shot locally in Oklahoma in a way that not a lot of people have ever thought to do before. I mean, no one's ever made a super powered drama in Oklahoma. Like our most famous Oklahoma film is probably The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders that Francis Ford Coppola did, and it's got Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Like, it's got all these named stars that were very young, up and coming stars at that point. And it's a teen drama, but it's probably the only instance of a production trying to tackle material like this. Not that I'm saying we're The Outsiders, but no one's ever tried to do a superhero film like this. And we were very blessed to find some really great collaborators. Like you said, how the film looks. We had a great cinematographer in Sam Calvin. We had a great production designer. We had some really good producers, local producers, Wendy Parker and Sheree Green. I mean, we had sort of everything fell into place in this really strange way that we could have never predicted, that I could have never predicted. And then Kyle is a great visualist. Like he really constructed some great visuals for this film. But we lucked into getting sort of the best of the best resources that were available to us at any given time, which is a testament, I think, to Oklahoma filmmaking and how Oklahoma filmmaking is very slowly growing into this really interesting scene that, I moved to Los Angeles from Oklahoma in 2006. And if the film industry in Oklahoma was what it is now, back in 2005, say 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have moved. Like I would have stayed and kept trying to work on small productions, and just trying to tell really interesting independent stories about our state, with our state, using actors that have connections to our state. I mean, it is the Oklahoma Film and Music Office has done a lot of really great work getting the tax rebate in place. So productions that come in from outside, they get X number of cents back on their dollar. For every dollar they spend, they get X number of cents back. And so with that, and we get basically one big production a year, but you have a lot of small productions going throughout. And they've built this really interesting filmmaking world that Oklahoma's never really had before. Mm-hmm. And so we shot our film in 2013. Another group did this horror movie called Army of Frankensteins in 2013. A guy named Ryan Belgart. And like we would kind of go back and forth and sort of challenge each other to do cooler stuff. And so you get like this really interesting world of Oklahoma film that didn't necessarily exist before, and people are doing some really cool stuff there and telling really different types of stories that they weren't able to tell 10 years ago. And so I'm really happy that the Posthuman is finished and it's out, and people will hopefully see like what is possible, what's possible in Oklahoma with, I mean, just gumption. I mean, Kyle is amazing in that he sets his mind to getting something done, and he will do whatever it takes, however it takes, to get it there. And that is a really great skill for a filmmaker to have, and it's a really great mindset for him to have. And he pulled off some really neat stuff with Posthuman, and hopefully it will help inspire teenagers in Oklahoma to try to make their own stuff and keep telling interesting stories, because now like I can shoot a film on my phone if I really want to, you have access to cameras that are just in your pocket.
And they're not bad either. Like, I filmed for class just as like, oh, we have to use an iPhone. And actually it looks really crisp. So it's like, it's really cool to see cameras, again, you put in your pocket, and they're actually good cameras.
And when I was in film school in 2003, we were shooting on 16 millimeter using old Arri Flex and Bolexes and all this stuff. And we were getting really neat looking work out of it because it looked like film once you process it. But like now cameras are everywhere, and they're in your pocket. They're everywhere. So if you want to tell a cool story, you can do it. You're going to be limited by your budget and your, like physical limitations. But now you have an ability that we never had when I was in film school, and that opens up a lot of interesting doors. And again, the Oklahoma film community has been very supportive, and I think will continue to be a very supportive community for each other, even as time goes on. And the more productions happen in Oklahoma, the more interesting work we're going to get out of it. And that's really exciting to me. I live in Los Angeles, but I'm watching all this stuff from the outside. And they're getting some really cool projects off the ground right now, shot for not a lot of money in a state that really wants to support filmmaking, because it's a really interesting storytelling method that no one would ever expect in Oklahoma. Again, like before, let's say 2000, before Twister, the only movie that really dealt with Oklahoma was The Outsiders, or maybe Rumblefish, or the S.E. Hinton book translations. And then you get Twister, which was shot barely in Oklahoma, but mostly shot in surrounding states. And then you slowly like start to have like The Killer Inside Me in August Osage County, and like stuff that deals with Oklahoma. But like there's a film starting up called The Blue Whale that it revolves around this really cool blue whale sculpture in Oklahoma. Like the whole plot revolves around this really iconic piece of Oklahoma geography. And like that's really neat, and I can't wait to see what that film ends up looking like. And that guy just said, like, it's a guy named Jonathan Rossetti, and he did a film called what was it called? Home Again, James, or I'm probably butchering that title. But he shot a film in Tulsa, and he liked it so, like, he's from Tulsa. We're all Oklahoma kids, but he liked shooting in Tulsa so much he wanted to come back and do Blue Whale in Oklahoma again. And William H Macy shot Rudderless there, which is a film with him and Billy Crudup and Selena Gomez and a bunch of names. Casey Affleck was in Killer Inside Me, so Ben Affleck was in Oklahoma for a few minutes.
For the 2 minutes.
Right. Like, my friend has a picture of him at the airport. Like he was in Oklahoma briefly, but like, we're pulling in some really cool names, like Jill Wagner, who was on a show I worked on called Blade the Series. She's the host of Wipeout. She's on Wipeout. She's on Teen Wolf now. Yeah. But she was in a horror film they shot in Oklahoma called Splinter in 2007 or 2008. And like, we're slowly building up a head of steam for productions, and I'm really intrigued to see what happens next with the Oklahoma filmmaking community, because it's never existed before now, in this way. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. So I'm, in terms of final thoughts, I just think it's really exciting and I'm really happy that we contributed something to Oklahoma film that hopefully people will see, like, look, you don't have to have a $2 million budget, a $10 million budget, a $200 million budget. You can tell these types of stories as long as you are aware of your budget and you're aware of what Oklahoma has to offer. And Oklahoma has a lot of really, really talented storytellers that are producing really interesting work, but on such a low budget, in part because we just don't have huge amount of resources there. Mm-hmm. And so now we've made a film that is about, say, teen drama with superpowers, and we made it in Oklahoma for not a lot of money. A micro budget is the phrase we use, because we haven't, I don't know that we've actually publicly set our budget. But we made it with a micro budget, and we did it with a lot of drive, and a lot of it comes out of Kyle, and a lot of it comes out of Matt. And a lot of it comes out of just finding resources when and where we can to try to make the most interesting story possible with those limitations in mind. Yeah. So I'm very proud of the work. I think it's really interesting, and it's something different, and it's a film that I had no idea if it was going to work out or not. Like, you turn in a script for a comic, the issue is going to come out in a month. We're 3 years into this movie, and we're finally getting released, and people are finally getting to check it out. And I'm really thankful that people are checking it out. And reviews seem to be very fair, I think. And it's not just limited to the festival circuit, because when you do the festival circuit, people aren't necessarily going to pay $30 a person to buy a festival pass to see your film, but they'll pay $10 on iTunes to rent it. And so it opens us up to a lot of different eyes, hopefully. Yeah. And I'm thankful that it exists, and I'm thankful that filmmaking community helped make it happen. And we could not have, this film wouldn't exist without the efforts of a lot of people. And I'm thankful every day that everyone pitched in to do the work and help us make this, interesting Oklahoma-based superhero flick.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool that Oklahoma is getting this film community. I think film communities in general just need to grow, and it's great to see that indie films are getting more notice, and that's why I'm promoting the hell out of this one, because I really enjoyed the film. And so last notes, is there any other projects that you're working on that you want to talk about, comic book wise, or I don't know, I would say movie-wise, but probably comic book-wise.
Yeah, there are. Can I talk about them? Not really. When we stop recording, I can talk about them, awesome. but publicly, stay tuned. Like, that's sort of the best I can offer you right now.
Very cool. Yeah. So. I'm looking forward to it, because again, I love your work, and I love Supergirl. It's one of my favorite runs of Supergirl. I read a lot of Supergirl. Loved your Vibe. Honestly, if anyone seen Flash, go check out Sterling's Vibe comic, because I think it's a very great counterpart for the character that's over there.
Well, and also, like, that comic was started by Jeff Johns and Andrew Kreisberg, who are both the producers and exec producers on Flash now. So they took a lot of the ideas that they had from Vibe and filtered them over to the show. So
exactly. It's another reason to get the trade. So if you pick that trade,
if you pick up the trade, it's it's a very short run. You know, we only had 10 issues, but I think we told some really cool stories with Cisco and you know, the multiverse, and tried to really do stuff about the DC multiverse within the context of this kid sort of dropped in the middle of craziness.
Yeah.
You know, that's it's one of the things I really like in terms of storytelling. I really like telling stories about ordinary people dropped into extraordinary situations, or really extraordinary people dropped into really, really extraordinary situations, and just keep heightening that. But like, Cisco is this kid who gets powers, doesn't really know how to use them, and then suddenly he gets drafted into this governmental agency that's essentially Shield. It's DC's version of Shield called Argus. He gets drafted into this top secret government agency, not because of his you know, his great abilities as an agent, but because he has powers that can be exploited to fight speedsters. And so he immediately, like, he and his brother immediately are like, wait, this is really messed up that I'm doing this. Like, why am I even here? And then a lot of stuff happens and chaos ensues. And then he ends up in the multiverse, bouncing around dimensions, and it's a fun story. I wish, again, you know, you're only as good as your sales in comics. I wish it had found an audience so that we could have done a couple more stories with Vibe, because I think he's a really fun character to write. Mm-hmm. And he's very much an ordinary kid dropped into the craziest of circumstances.
And I love that. I think that's why I gravitate to your writing so much, is because I love ordinary people. They're just like, whoa, I'm a superhero now. And I think that's why I gravitated to this project and also Vibe. And that's another series I tried to really put out there, because I think it is just such under the radar. It's like, oh, Vibe. Maybe if it came out a year later after the TV show, I think maybe more people would have given it a try. But it's such a good series, guys. You guys still have a chance. It's still there. So it's in trade. Go get that. And also, of course, your Supergirl run. Anything you write, just go get
it. and Supergirl's going to be a TV show. How cool is that?
I know. I'm super excited for that.
Me too.
So excited.
Me too. I love all the people behind it, so I'm really psyched to see what that's like, because I have no idea what it's like. I keep bugging Jeff, like, hey, can I see the pilot? And he's like, no, not at all. I'm like, I really want to watch this. Okay, fine. But I'm excited for it. I think it'll be really interesting.
You're waiting. The actress actually went to my college, so it's like, it's also kind of cool to see that too. So
nice.
It's like, yeah, so very excited about that project. But yeah, so you could obviously go check out Posthuman Project on Xbox now, right? It's on Xbox.
Yeah. I think it's iTunes right now. I know we've populated out to Xbox, PlayStation, iTunes, Google Play, and I think Vudu. Mm-hmm. And then we're gonna and DirecTV. We're definitely on DirecTV. And then I think we're gonna hit Amazon and one other VOD service.
Verizon, maybe?
You know, our website is posthumanmovie.com. Every time a new one pops, we throw the link up. So just check posthumanmovie.com and all that stuff should be up. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So social media wise, or anything you want to plug, like Twitter, Facebook, or anything like that?
Our Twitter is at Posthuman Project, but there's a trick to spelling it, because it's PROJCT. There's no E. Project with no E. Posthuman Project. All one word. On Twitter, I'm at Sterling Gates, all one word. Kyle Roberts is at Video Kyle. Matthew Price, the other writer-producer, is at Nerdage. And then our Facebook, if you give me 1 second to look, it's facebook.com/posthumanfilm is the Facebook site. So go over and like that. And then I think that's all in terms of social media. There might be an Instagram that's probably at Posthuman Project. And then I know all the actors, like all of our main actors, have Twitter handles that I'm sure you can find with a Google search, but I don't know them off the top of my head.
Awesome. So obviously, go check that all out. Go
please,
Twitter,
yeah.
Facebook, go check it all out. Buy this film, guys. support indie projects. And this film's awesome. And if you like superheroes, I think you'll really enjoy it. If you want a grounded film, check this out. Again, if you want more female empowerment, this film has that too. So has a lot for everybody. Go check it out. Thank you, Sterling, so much for coming on to the show.
No, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to talk about it. Like it's weird to talk about it. Like I said, like this is 3 years in the making. I've worked on this longer than any other project outside of maybe Supergirl. And it's been a long time coming, and I'm really glad to actually like talk about it with people that have seen it, because like up until this point, my mom had seen it, and anyone that went to a film festival, and then anyone that worked on it, and then came to like the cast and crew screening. So it's thank you for watching, and I'm really glad you like it. Like it's gratifying that there is that the audience has been receiving it fairly well. So I'm really thrilled that it's out, and I hope you give it. I hope everyone gives it a look and lets me know what you think of it. You can find me pretty much on the internet pretty easily. You just Google me if you can't find my website or my Twitter or whatever. But yeah, I'm thrilled with the work that we did, and I'm just happy that it's out, and it's crazy to me that it's out. Like I was in Avengers 2 and my phone started buzzing, and like I very slyly in the dark theater opened my phone up, and I had all these texts from people, and they were sending screen caps of like the Posthuman pre-order had hit their
gratifying. Yeah.
had hit their iTunes, and it was just like, holy smokes, like we're live and this is real and this is a real thing. Like now it's out, and now who knows what's going to happen with it. Again, if it does well, we have stories to tell with these characters, and the future of these characters, and when we do those stories, hell, if we do those stories, will be determined by reception and by sales. I mean, that's the only way we can really justify spending another 3 years doing an indie superhero thing in Oklahoma. So hopefully people like it, and again, let me know what you think. I'm all over the internet. I'm easy to find.
Yes, so go check it out. Thank you again, and this is our show, and I'll have all the links for everything in the description. So we'll see you guys later. Bye.